university level, people have been ghostwriting for a very long time. I used to write people's projects, write people's assignments. Why are you looking at me as if you're one of them? So people did stuff like that. And even, Obama doesn't write his speech. People have speech writers, right? So at some point, there was a time that it was very interesting that I know that about 3 or 4 Nigerian presidents, the same person wrote their inauguration speech. And you would not even know who this man is. But it's a very well-known, almost on the Wole Soyinka kind of level. But literally, when it's time to write a presidential speech, even the people that are the president's speech writers take the speech to this guy to take a good look at it. Because, a presidential speech is something that lasts forever. There are always some sound bites. I do not belong to anybody, fuel subsidy is removed. There's some things that last forever. So when it comes to writing at that level, people are very careful. You go and look for who can write because you're going to be quoted for eternity. So whether it is designing this flyer, and I really do like this flyer, this graphic, right? I can be so attracted to this graphic that the next thing I would say is, Brother EJK, the person that designed this graphic for you, can you do this for me? Or somebody sees this and says, oh boy, I saw that your thing, I say you go to Port Harcourt this weekend. And then the conversation now goes, now you design them, or can you get me that designer? We're working on our brochure or our cover. You see, this is how the way work, the future of work, talent, jobs, entrepreneurship, this is really what happened. I give another example, and I don't want to get too personal, but I was explaining it to someone yesterday as well. There was a time in this world where you could not earn $1 without physically being in the US. Even when you worked for a multinational company here, only sort of expatriates were paid dollars. So even if your salary was dollar denominated, they would change it back to Naira and pay you the Naira value. And of course, it was very huge. And we know those kind of people who are earning, those kind of salaries. So the desire to encourage Jakpa to travel out, to go out there, principally for $1, was extremely very high. And the premium that was put on things like getting a green card and citizenship, people going to do odd jobs. And I don't think there's anything wrong with odd jobs, but my grasp with odd jobs or jobs that are lesser than you is, if you can do more, and that is a stepping stone, don't get stuck there. My heart breaks when I see really talented people go from Nigeria, go abroad, you do caregiver, and you do caregiver for so long, you never ascend up the healthcare career and eventually become a doctor or, a vocational nurse or something. You just stop at caregiver or cleaner or something like that. But nowadays, even when people want to give up what they have now, if your desire is to earn $1, you do not need, it's not necessary. You may want to, you may have the opportunity of a scholarship or a relation taking you abroad to go and start working, but you actually do not need to travel out to earn $1. And then for some people, and I know we say this from a point of privilege, you go to the airport, and as you're running away, which I did 3 years ago, you see people running in. The Chinese are coming. The Indians are coming. They come into your country and they just see opportunity everywhere. They look at the number of people and the amount of dysfunction in the country, and they just realize, this is money. This is money. I gave someone an exercise yesterday, and I asked people to say, open up your phone, open up your SMS alerts, look at the last 5 things you spent money on. Why did you spend money on that? If I look at the last 5 things I spent money on, I just paid a Bolt to get to the location where I was going to meet Brother EJK. I also paid a taxi from Uyo to Port Harcourt. I paid for a hotel last night. I paid for some food, and I paid for some pharmaceutical drugs. Those 5 things I spent money on were needs that needed to be met. I had to pay for them. If you look at it conversely, or if you look at it from a different point of view, if I reframe it, we say money goes in the direction of value. Where there's a value you need, you spend money. Sometimes you don't even have the money, you borrow the money, or you get the money to spend on what you need. So if you have a problem, if you have something that is frustrating you, if you have a pain point, you go and find money from anywhere to sort out that pain point. Could be your children's school fees, could be healthcare bill, it could be rent. It could even be something as simple as, I cannot cook this soup without salt. And look at the richest man in Africa. What is he dealing with? Our most basic of needs: salt, sugar, cement. He went into Indomie, and I don't know, that there are two sides of that story of what happened in the Indomie business. And now today he's in petrol. Your basic needs. So when people stay outside and they look at Nigeria and they look at we don't really know how many we are, whether it's 200 million or 250 million, 150 million. All they see is 150 million people that need salt. And some of these people need salt every day, multiple times a day. So I'm going to switch a little bit into some of our startup and tech ecosystem lingo or some paradigms. In starting a business or in entrepreneurship, or let me just put it as startup so that I don't misquote or misrepresent something. There are a few things we talk about as how to run a successful business. So first of all, let me take a step back and how we define startups. We have small businesses. Anything is a small business, even standard. I don't want to be too stereotypical, but Aboki outside selling toothpaste, that's a small business. It's a small business. Whether you have a hairdressing salon or a barbering salon or a fleet of cars, it's a small business. But when you hear of startups and you start thinking of the likes of Google, Amazon, Facebook, Flutterwave, InterSwitch, Bolt, Uber, we define a startup, or some of us define a startup as a business built to grow extremely fast, leveraged by technology. So startups are not business that are trying to make 1 million naira or 10 million naira, 100 million naira. Startups are thinking in the billions of dollars. And when you start thinking in the billions of dollars, there's something we call a unicorn in startup lingo. That's a business that's valued at least $1 billion or more, your valuation, like your market cap or whatever. So when we talk about startups, when we talk about setting up a business or an entity that is designed ab initio to grow extremely fast, leveraged by technology, that's when we're talking about a startup. Small business, there's nothing wrong with owning a small business, but I usually say when you aspire very high, if you don't get there, you get somewhere eventually. So some of the thoughts I'm going to be throwing across the room today and open to feedback are things really about startups, right? And this is about businesses that make a ton of money. And sometimes they get to a ton of money very fast. ChatGPT is only 3 years old. And then the converse way to do that is, if you look at some of the jobs that exist today, some of the companies that people work for, when they were in university, those companies don't exist. Uber driver, there was no Uber. Excuse me. I don't think Uber is 10 years old. Facebook is roughly 15, if I'm not mistaken. You can fact check me. ChatGPT is 3 years old, November 2022. So you can imagine you cannot be in primary school and be aspiring to, we aspire to work in Shell. We aspire to work in Mobile. We aspire to work in some particular bank. But people could be in school today, and the most fantastic company of your generation is not yet created. And just from the time you graduate to the time when you're looking for a job, within 1 or 2 years, you might end up in a company that has completely changed the world. TikTok is not 5 years old. Thank you very much. TikTok is not 5 years old. And there are Nigerians working in TikTok. And the Nigerians making money on TikTok. You can walk up to somebody today and ask them what's their job. They say they're a content creator. That job didn't exist 5 years ago. Social media manager, social media influencer. You know, as we normally joke, those days you're either a lawyer, an engineer, doctor, accountant, or failure. Our parents, you're going to go and do botany for what? Now, as how? You know? But now there's so many diverse careers that people even don't imagine. Now you have, if you go into the AI space, you have prompt engineering. You have, there's so many things. Now you're even trying to find, you have people whose job it is to figure out if this article was written by AI or written by a human being. People are building software, building companies to look at things like that. So let's go back, and I was talking about startups. So when we talk about startups, and I want to use that metaphor, that frame, to really think about growing businesses, think about how you think of work, how you think of jobs, how you think of the next monumental thing that could change the entirety of this region, this state, this city, the same way probably Shell did, right? If you're building a business, there are two things we usually look at. Is your product or service, is it a painkiller or is it a vitamin? And it's the same thing when people come to me, mentor me, advise me, invest in my business, come and be part of my board of advisors or advisors. The question you ask yourself, is your business a painkiller or a vitamin? So if I had a serious headache or I'd been in an accident or something, so God forbid, and I was in pain, and they said you needed 2,000 naira to buy this medication, I will even buy that medication before I eat. They will have to tell me, oh, you must eat before you take this medication. But when you have a painkiller, when something is a pain point to people, they don't think twice before they make a payment. But if it comes to vitamins, you can walk into a pharmacy right now and you have painkiller, and then these pharmacist says, well, you can also take this multivitamin. It's made in so and so place. It's good for your health. Detox, flush your system, all those stories. Wash your blood. You're like, I don't know, next time. But when it's a painkiller, you don't do next time. Rather, you even collect the painkiller on credit. So when we think of painkillers, when we think of things that solve a problem, when we think of things that, and I gave this example, I think it's one of the things that must have tripped Mr. Ejike and my father, Dongo, was, how many of you have ever been to a shop before and you made a payment? And they say you cannot leave until Madam can confirm the alert. We've all been there before. It's a very annoying thing. I'm even showing you the transaction on my phone, but because it's Nigeria, we can create things. Nobody wants to believe that transaction alert. And it was a pain. But today, what do you have? MoneyPoint and OP. Somebody moved the SMS alert from Madam's phone and put it right there on the POS. So when you make a payment, just say ping, and then receipt prints out, and you can walk away. And they've built a trillion naira business. MoneyPoint is now valued at over $1 billion. Just from walking into a shop, being stuck, you cannot leave because you've made a payment. You see the transaction receipt on your side, and somebody else looks elsewhere and says, you can't leave here until Madam Orga confirms the alert. Someone just moved the SMS alert from Madam's phone and put it on the POS. I mean, a lot of other things happened. You know, they made the POSs a little bit more graphical interface. You can see the phone number. There's a few other things happened for that. The POS now has an account number. Before, some of those POSs didn't have. Now, to make it even simpler, they made the account number, the phone number of the POS, and a few other things. But the core thought, the core innovation was just, how could I make this easier or more convenient so that people can check out faster, right? So that pain point, solving that pain point, has created thousands of jobs, POS operators, POSs in almost every supermarket, business all over. And then for the founders of that company, a ton of money. And like I said, in a very short time, MoneyPoint was what, 2-3 years ago? Look at where they are today. The other kind of thing is, and of course, they leverage a lot of technology, the SMS, the alerts, the interface, and then the entire business hosted in the cloud. Many of my friends that work in MoneyPoint don't go to the office. They work from home. One of them who worked in my team before, he lives in Lafia. He's enjoying his life. You know, once in a while he goes to Abuja for a couple of meetings, or he comes around to do some speaking and some training. But he's more than happy doing what he wants to do there. So, if you are if you want to wear the lens of an innovator, of an entrepreneur, or somebody about thinking about the future of work, or the kind of work that creates outsized returns, you have to start thinking from the perspective of someone who looks for problems. So right now, I say this and sometimes people laugh about it. I'm looking for problems. I didn't say I'm looking for problems. That's the Nigerian one, like when you're in the park. I'm looking for I'm not looking for problem, not trouble. I'm looking for problems. What are people frustrated about? What annoys them? Yes, it could be government, it could be potholes, it could be transportation, it could be agbero, it could be loading in the market, it could be refuse, it could be cost of living. Every of those issues is almost probably, if you frame it properly, if you work at it very hard, $1 million, $1 billion, or even $1 trillion company staring you in your face. So if you are the one who's running away from problems, or someone who every time a problem hits you, the first thing is frustration, lashing out, anger, negative talk, abuse the government, go on social media, what's very dark man talking about, exactly, and that's what you spend your time on doing, you're not going to build the next money point. You have to see a problem and a frustration and ask yourself, so what next? What could we do differently? You have to question the norm. Look at how prevalent solar panels and inverters and everything is here. Yes, at some point people got frustrated with power and hoping that it will get better. And sometimes you get these business opportunities or these entrepreneurship opportunities. Things start to change when there are improvements in technology. So you may be looking at a problem and you really can't figure out a way to solve that problem or how to go about it. And then technology is just advancing on its own, and all of a sudden, something becomes more affordable, more accessible, then it can now enable your business. If you look at an international example like Uber, the young men were like, why do I have to go and stand under the rain to hail a taxi? I have a phone in my hand, I have Google Maps, my card, when I go to supermarket, I have my card details in my, everything, GPS, technology that's almost 50 years old, from, the military era's war, everything was just somehow in this device. And the person looked at it and said, if we added this to this and that to that, we create a service where I don't need to go and look for a taxi. I just need to register an intent. And a taxi will know exactly where I am, and then it can come to meet me. Right? So is there a way you can look at any frustration? So that's why I said, just something that's been stuck in the rain. I go every day and you're walking, maybe you're driving down, and then you just see people at the bus stop. Once it rains, everyone's at the bus stop. All the buses are in the park, queuing up, ton, like there's 50 people waiting, queuing up. And then if you go to every other junction or every other bus stop along that route, you see people stuck. And eventually when the bus fills up at the park, it starts coming, and when it gets to the bus stop, maybe one person drops and 10 people are trying to enter at the same time. It's an inefficiency problem. Is there a better way? I don't know. Have people tried it and failed? Of course, Uber is not affordable for everybody. It's not a mass market solution. So, but can you start when you walk around and you see litter and you see, broken this or something not working or something frustrates you or you don't get the right information about some situation, can you take a step back and, complain, vent, but then ask yourself, is this a business opportunity staring me in my face? And that goes down to what I know, like the last talk I had, which is innovation. The big word. What really picks me off or what makes me very upset is when people define innovation using the word innovate. So innovation is being innovative and coming up with innovative solutions. When you innovate something, that is innovation. I'm like, how bad now? Explain to me. Let's talk again. What really is this innovation of a word, right? And it's taken me a long time to accept a definition and assimilate a definition of innovation. And I'm not really worried whether it's the correct definition or it's the proper definition, but it's the way I understand it and the way I can communicate it and the way I've seen it being actualized, right? The first way to define innovation is to differentiate it from invention. Now, invention is creating something new. You invent a new, solar panel. Thomas Edison, or who invented the bulb, Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, all those inventors. Those are inventors, right? So bringing something that did not exist, a device, a system, a process, is invention. And yes, that is still reserved for that 1% of superhuman brains, abilities, no doubt. But that is not innovation. I mean, when you are inventing, you're being innovative, you're coming up with something new. But I define innovation from a speech I got from someone who was the former MD of L.E.A.D. And innovation is not really about creating something new. It's about making something better. Making improvements to something, right? One of the best examples of innovation is pure water or sachet water. How many people are old enough to remember the former name of pure water? Bros, now you look young. We'll talk later. There used to be ice water. But what was the problem with ice water? Can you give me one or two of the issues that ice water had? It was dirty. You couldn't trust it. The packaging, the pricing, anything could happen. And then when people brought pure water, it was a step up. But it was a step below bottled water. That time I had only Ragulis and Swan. Very few. So now it was affordable, but it was still trustworthy. So there was a better way to package and sell water for people to be more confident paying for it. And eventually, people's health would generally improve if they kept drinking pure water than drinking the ice water they could not trust, right? So that small thing of just, is there a better way to package this water that could make it cheaper than bottled water and more of a higher quality than ice water? So when we think of innovation, when I think of innovation, when I define innovation, when I try to simplify innovation, I think of the ER. So what is the ER in whatever you are proposing, designing, creating, building around? And this ER is the same primary school ERO. Fast, cheap, simple, big, good, gooder. Okay. So, what did MoneyPoint create? A faster way to just pay for something and walk out of the supermarket, right? What did Uber create? A simpler way to get a taxi. So when you think of what are you introducing into the market, ask yourself, okay, people have been using this one. Why should they start using this one? Most of us now use WhatsApp to send messages. Because SMS, how much is SMS? Is it 15 or 10 naira now? You can't. Rather, you just buy a subscription, you have a data plan, or even have a free WhatsApp plan or whatever, and then you can text back and forth. And then WhatsApp has become more capable. You can now send voice messages, pictures, images, videos, and links. Right? So WhatsApp came and just destroyed the SMS market. And for a long while, even the telcos and everybody resisted it. They tried to stop it, but it says nothing as powerful as an idea whose time has come. Right? So you can ask yourself, is there a cheaper way to do this? Is there a faster way to do this? Is there a simpler way to do this? So whatever exists right now, whatever business, whatever way of life, whatever way of mode of transportation, whatever way of getting food from Genesis to your house, food delivery, whatever, in so many sectors. If you look at many of the startups, many of the companies, many of the enterprises that are leveraging technology to do amazing things, just getting something to you faster, cheaper, easier. Sometimes it's just information. I remember when I was younger, we used to go from point A to point B to actually do price comparison when your parents are looking for a bargain. Now, people, if you want to buy something, at least you can just even go on, even if you don't want to shop online, you can go on Jumia or Konga or Price Pally or someone and just quickly check the price. Get a sanity check. How much does this thing cost, So when you think of work, you think of jobs, you have to slowly divorce yourself from the traditional way of this is the only way or this is the only opportunity. There's so many more, right? And thinking innovatively, whether you are starting something new, whether you currently work in a company, whether you're part of a team, whether you are a candidate at a job interview, there are a few things you can, how would I put it? Like, you can try to imbibe and process them, try to think differently, or like you always say, think out of the box, and approach your response to that interview question, your contribution to that team meeting, your aspiration of the next business or the next deal you want to be part of, and think of it from, what's the ER behind what I'm proposing? Why would people who are doing it this way start doing it my way? And I always say, it's not always a race to the bottom, because sometimes you're combining 2 or 3 of these things together. There's a business called L.E.A.D in Lagos. I don't know who's ever heard of L.E.A.D, and I don't know if they're in Port Harcourt. But what L.E.A.D does is that they provide staff buses for people whose companies don't have staff bus, or even for some people who have company staff bus that does not get to their location. So Lagos, if you are living in somewhere like Ikorodu or K2, and you're working in Victoria Island, right, you probably have a phone that maybe 500,000, 100, 1 million naira. You're carrying it every day. You probably need to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning and get to work before 7, before 8. So what do? You pay a subscription on L.E.A.D, and then you go to any of their takeoff points, and their buses leave on time, 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock. And it's an air-conditioned coaster bus, white coaster bus, like same buses that all these oil companies and banks use. And it takes you directly from that far-flung location and drops you in a central place, either in CMS or in Victoria Island. But it's a very sweet, comfortable, air-conditioned, on-time ride. It's not cheaper than Danfo. It's definitely cheaper than Uber. If you took an Uber from K2 to VI, more expensive. But it's more expensive than the normal bus transport. But it is safer, it's more convenient, it's more comfortable, and it's more expensive. People gladly sleep on the bus. Nothing's going to happen. If your phone gets missing, there's CCTV. I think now they even have Wi-Fi on the bus. Somebody has looked at that commute experience, right, and says, there must be a better way to go from this place to that place without going through stress, right? And companies have now started seeing that instead of even running their own bus shuttle service, just pay a subscription for your staff on L.E.A.D, right? And now they don't have any excuse, because if you don't get to work on time, it's because you didn't get to the bus stop at time. I know the bus left at 5, and everybody else who was in your route is in the office. So where are you? And then you don't come to work, travel, sweating, brown shirts. You have not fought with Agbo Road. You just, so people start adapting. So it's not even that the service is cheaper. There are more benefits or more innovation. there are more ERs. It may be more secure, and then sometimes you can't say securer, you can't say gooder, but sometimes there's just something more. It's the comparative that there's something that makes it better to do it this way than to do it the other way, even if it's slightly more expensive. So finally, I think where I kind of try to figure out or try to advise people to lean towards is just a healthy understanding for technology. And a healthy understanding from technology comes from not being a programmer or a hacker or knowing cybersecurity and AI. There's sort of like a few fundamentals that are very helpful. How many of you have read the manual for WhatsApp? Nobody. So how do you use it? So you're all techies. An app was dropped on your phone, and all of a sudden now you know how to type, send voice notes, image, contact, location. You're all techie. So it's not reserved for the people who did engineering or the people who work in Silicon Valley. Everyone has sort of found a way around being digitally literate, somehow versatile. So if you could figure out WhatsApp, and you might take it for granted. Some of you that use your iPhone, your Android, you pinch, you zoom, you crop, you annotate, you add filter. You're doing a lot of work. People get quotes from somebody else's status, create DP. That is a lot of work that you're taking for granted. And it's a lot of skill that you have built. You didn't know how to do this before. And nowadays, my 7-year-old son knows my password. Madam does not know my password till tomorrow. I don't understand. There's no password I will put on my phone. Somehow my 7-year-old just knows how to remove the password. And anything, I think the other day he saw old television. He now started pressing and was trying to, I'm like, no, this was not touch screen. But you see, there's a digital nativity that comes. And some sort of digital, I don't know what to call it. So yeah, nativity, some kind of skill that we've all built because we understand the way things work. Even when somebody comes and like, maybe your grandma or your mom and says, okay, come and help me send the SMS, come and help me transfer money to my daughter or this. After like 2 or 3 times, she doesn't call you again, starts doing it herself, right? So fundamentally, the way systems and processes and devices are being designed globally, they follow some kind of standards. They call it intuitive, UI, UX, if you come into our world. The user interfaces and the user experiences. People spend a lot of time trying to make sure that whatever they build kind of works smoothly. So UI, UX designer is another role that did not exist before. So if your child comes and says doing UI, UX, or your junior one, please don't say, are you sure you're not doing Yahoo? There are actually a lot of very non-traditional roles that people do these days. And like someone said, I think in the room just as I was working in, time zones are probably more important than location. You can be here. I've been in Nigeria for 4 months. 1 month of that time I've been sort of off work, like unpaid time off. But for the first, I think, 6 weeks, I was working and I was traveling. I was going everywhere. I would check my mail, my phone. At the point, I had to remove my office email from my phone because I just didn't want to be checking it at the time I was supposed to be on vacation. But I'm completely productive, completely. I can interrupt, take a meeting. I can tell people my location. I can jump on a document, add a comment. And I'm saying this because intuitively we all do these things without knowing. So where do I want to really encourage everyone as we think of the future of work, innovation, entrepreneurship, and even learning? The way we learn, the way we assimilate things. I am a strong believer that the 4-year, 5-year degrees are an absolute waste of time. If it was relevant in the 60s, it can't be relevant in the 2020s. You don't need 5 months to get a degree to learn how to go and work in a factory or work in an office. Because some of those jobs don't even exist anymore. And they're even going to become more and more obsolete, right? You need a creative thinking, problem-solving, logic mindset, and how to use one or two tools. That's why people go to boot camps or they go to training. People go and spend 5 years in school, then they come out, then go and do 6 months, and they become a successful makeup artist or a beauty, natural herbs, something. So I think skill is... Be careful, my parents were teachers. I hope people are not looking. Skill is, especially in the world today, will get you closer to prosperity, entrepreneurship, your first earnings than going to school. Especially because we have conflated schooling with education. We sometimes mix those two definitions. That's why we see people on the streets, your vulcanizer, your mechanic, your rewire, that did not go to school, and then you assume they are not educated, or you think they are illiterate because they can't read and write and sign. Thankfully, technology is becoming more and more accessible that they don't even need those skills anymore. They can talk, they can pinch, they can zoom, they can press buttons, they can use their fingerprints, they can figure out their PIN. So they can transact, they can receive, and they can get their work done. So upskilling, learning new skills as far as your imagination can go, I think is very important. I think even being multidisciplinary. I'm a content creator. I've been a content creator for 1 year. I have YouTube channels now. I started writing books or blog posts. Very inconsistent. I wish I could do better, a little better discipline. But I've started getting gigs and opportunities from that realm. Even now, recently, we are planning a tech week in Akwa Ibom all through of next week. And that's kind of like where I popped in from and popping back. I'm finding that the skills I've learned just online on YouTube, looking at videos, editing them, looking at color balance, I'm contributing back to that conference. Despite the fact, in quotes, I'm an electrical engineer by profession, right? So where does this put you? We're in the age of AI. Artificial intelligence is here to stay. I'm sorry, you cannot run away from it. The government's behind it, the big tech companies behind it. It's here to stay. But do you have to be someone that does neural networks or AI configuration? Absolutely not. Just like your WhatsApp, you just need to be somebody who knows how to open ChatGPT, Meta, whatever on your phone and start doing productive things. You can ask thing to assume that you are a safety engineer in a company. Come up with a safety plan or a rescue plan. Now, that's not what's going to save 100 people working on an oil rig. But for someone who does not have the ability or doesn't know where to start when you're working on something, where you're looking for a thought partner, I want to pick your brain, I want to bounce something off you, is what I'm doing correct, is the approach I'm taking, if you were this, how would you go about this? You need to understand some of those fundamentals, the same way you understand how to craft a message on WhatsApp and ask someone questions. You need to understand those fundamentals so you start understanding how powerful and useful these technologies are. And like we all that get on stage to speak, the version of technology we're using today is the worst version in the future. It's going to get better tomorrow. When ChatGPT came out the first time 3 years ago, hey, hallucination, false, blah, 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 blah. But these days, it's getting so much better. So if there was one thing I would ask everyone in this room to take a step back and try to understand from first principles, from the fundamentals, this AI era that we are in, that anywhere we turn left, right, we're hearing AI images, AI graphics, AI video, AI story, AI writer, AI. Try and understand what exactly is this thing. This is that your PA. This is that your assistant that is either on your phone or your laptop that you can ask some specific questions and get some really tangible answers. And those answers can be extremely complex. And those answers are generated, that's why I say generative artificial intelligence. They're generated for you based on your question. Something goes around and picks up all this information, kind of formats it and gives you back in the way you want. So one of the things I would encourage here, and I'm sure you don't need someone come from Silicon Valley or the 1,001 guys in this city, probably in this congregation, who have been using AI in very productive ways. I think a very practical session on what you can do with prompts, what you can do with what they call large language models, which is the underlying philosophy behind all this ChatGPT and the rest. If you go a level deeper, what they call transformers or machine learning or AI or deep learning, neural networks, stepwise, for those who just want to know the surface and the utility, how to use them, it's like a car. You know how to drive your car from point A to point B. You know how to start it, and maybe a few things, check the oil and check the water. You don't need to be an engineer or a mechanic before you start driving your car. Because all you want to do is get from point A to point B. You cannot go and learn mechanical engineering because you want to go from point A to point B. But you need to learn how to drive, right? And then the other thing I say synonymously is you don't learn how to drive a 504. You don't learn how to drive a Honda. You learn how to drive a car using Honda. They put you in another car or a more modern car tomorrow, you don't go and learn how to drive all over again. You just figure out this is now button, this thing is different, this one the reverse is in front, that one the reverse is behind, and then you adapt. So be someone who's understanding the scope, be someone who's innovative, thinking innovation from just making things simpler, faster, better. Be someone who's open to approaching problems from an opportunity and a possibility point of view, remembering that some of the most successful companies in the world today, home and abroad, help you solve a problem. And some of them are doing it at a scale that is just completely unbelievable and making a ton of money for it. So once again, my name is L.E.A.D. I wish I had the other hour, which I spent in traffic, but it's been a pleasure to interact with you. And if I do have time, I'm more than happy to take a few questions. Thank you very much.
Could you once again put your hands together? Thank you. I am going to assume that this has been good for you. Is that a safe assumption? Okay. So in the next couple of minutes, we will step into the Q&A part of this conversation. Could you put up that code, please? Thank you. I would advocate that you scan this and just push in your questions, whatever they may be, because we will start with the questions that we have here. We are trying to avoid that situation where one person asks a question, the second person asks, and suddenly everybody has questions. So if you don't have and you didn't push any there, you may need a miracle before we bring you up here, right? We are also innovating. Yeah, thank you. Okay. I'm sure that this is going on, but I got a few things out of this. Is the fact that I don't need to go and learn to drive afresh. If I already know how to drive, all I need to do is just take a look at the new car I'm in and adapt. So I stepped into I got into a Venza some days back, and my friend who was seated by my side on the right-hand side was like, check whether the handbrake is on. Please don't tell anybody I said this. The handbrake, you actually have to push with your leg. I didn't know. So now I know. The next time I get into a car like that, I will not look around too much. All right. So I'm going to ask that. I trust that your questions are already going because I see us scanning and typing. So I will ask that, please, once again, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as we bring up stage Anedi Udobong one more time. I would love a microphone. I'd love another mic. Please, sir. I'd love one mic, please. Can I get that?
Thank you.
Okay, let me check the questions that we have, and then we would actually get this on. But while I am doing the thing, I want to ask, so if I have this understanding of where I am right now and what the future holds, quote unquote, beyond the basic understanding, how does somebody who probably I do not have a degree, quote unquote, and I really am not so tech smart, what are the things I can do to position myself so that I'm able to assess what the future holds?
I think the first thing that people should learn to do is learn to volunteer and learn to be part of a community, right? Everyone here, by virtue of being just attending this event, you being the compere for this event, I don't think there was any qualification that you needed a degree to attend this event, right? So putting yourself out there and having that appetite to gain knowledge is one of the first things that people do to get a head start, right? In this community, there's obviously a reason why you're moderating, right? And most of the reason why you've been selected or, you've been given the opportunity this time. Maybe somebody else will get it another time, or maybe you're the regular person. But when people start realizing that they can give you something to do and you can get it done, or you can figure it out, they will continue working with you, right? And I don't know, just with maybe, Pastor's wife is here, maybe there's something you've done before that, makes it normal for you to be the person doing this. And then tomorrow, if they're elsewhere in the position, somebody says, I need somebody to do X, Y, Z, your name is one of the first comes up. So I think service, volunteering has become a very big issue because everyone wants to get paid. And people think that they want to get paid now, instant gratification. That's why we have people betting and, taking loans on apps. Like, they also want the results, like, today. They want the money right now. It's one of the biggest problems. So when I interact with people and I sort of get level with it. I find out that instant gratification, entitlement, and the unwillingness to sacrifice are some of the things that keep people held back. So if you flip the coin over, ready to make a sacrifice, you want to spend time learning something, you want to spend time following somebody, getting some kind of, you don't have to, somebody doesn't have to mentor you and say, I'm your mentor, you're my mentee, before you take mentorship from that person. I say there's a range of support networks you can get from up. You can be role model. I can role model anybody. You understand? I can look at Bill Gates or look at, I don't know what, let me not choose the wrong person, and just say, this person is my role model, right? And then I'll just follow the person online. In fact, by the time you start following somebody on TikTok or Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever, that's automatically your role model. You might not be doing it consciously, but looking at somebody, whether it's a footballer, I like the way this guy plays, Lamine Yamal, Messi, you can role model somebody. And with the way social media is, you can figure out what they sleep, how they eat, what music they listen to, what's their training routine. So first things first, I think if you're not completely, if you don't have exceptional skills, and you may not have the opportunity to go and get those skills or pay for those skills, in whatever immediate community you find yourself, it could be your estate group, it could be your old students association, it could be your church, it could be even in the office, a complementary group, or your umuna, or your sort of, where you come from association. I think volunteering is one of the easiest ways. One, to get experience. Two, for people to get to know you. And if you're going into those kind of places, the skills that you can showcase, that people will always remember, is that you get stuff done one way or the other, and you are dependable. They can rely on you. For those of us who sort of come into the workplace, I'll give you a secret. There are 3 things you can do in a workplace. They will never forget you, and they will always look for you. Be punctual. Like in Paystack, one of the most successful companies of our generation, Shola says, how are you late for an online meeting? How? If you try to connect 2 minutes before the meeting and you could not connect, you should ping somebody and say, I'm having a problem with my connection. Guys, I might be late. But you cannot come late to an online meeting. Like, okay, so what if it was a physical meeting? When would you have come?
Before.
So being punctual is number 1. Number 2, take notes. Hey, just write things down. When people finish having the entire discussion, it might be your boss, it might be you say, okay, that meeting I just happened today, I took out a few key points, just in case you need it or not, take notes. The notes may be very helpful for you, or you may be able to share it with someone, or somebody says, during that meeting, somebody said something about, yes, it was Chuka that said it, somewhere around 15 minutes, just at the beginning of the meeting. I remember it's Chuka that said it. When people know that you're punctual, you take notes, and you are willing and able to get stuff done, you get promoted. You get chosen. And that one doesn't need qualification.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you're clapping, please clap. You don't need... Thank you very much. All right. I'm also taking notes, by the way, so just so you know. I've got a couple of questions. So I have 8 and counting. I think everybody's ready for you. So that means you said something, right? Yeah. So since I'm connected with you on LinkedIn now, it means that you're my role model in a sense, right? Yeah. Don't mind me. I'm just being
LinkedIn, not Instagram, but Snapchat. That's a different me there. So stay with the LinkedIn version.
All right. So question here is, this person says that there are jobs that it will be difficult for AI to replace.
Yeah.
Except the only thing AI would do is make those jobs easier.
Yeah.
The question then is, what advice would you give to people who find themselves doing those sort of jobs? Should they dump them or do better, innovate, and continue?
Jobs that, so what for the people who are doing jobs that AI can replace, what should they do to sort of like, because the question is a bit confusing.
Yes. So go ahead with
Okay,
the one.
let me go with
this phrasing.
this phrasing. So if there are jobs right now that feels like AI is a threat to your job, the industry consensus is that AI will not take your job. Someone using AI will take your job. It's a phrase that is 80 to 90% true. And there's some historical context, right? ATMs did not kill banking. It didn't kill bankers. But it's kind of made tellers slightly irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because the function of just counting money for somebody to pay is not that glamorous. There was a time it was, right? And then not just the ATM machine, but like with mobile apps and web apps and internet transfer, some things used to go to the bank to go and execute don't exist anymore. So you cannot be you still have them in the bank, sorry bankers, you cannot just be the funds interbank transfer expert in a bank. That's a dangerous job because everybody can do interbank transfer on their phone right now. However, if I was going to build a financial technology company that will do bank transfers, remittances, and stuff like that, I will be looking for that interbank transfer expert. Somebody that understands NIBS, understands settlement, understands T+2, and all those other funny things. The tech-savvy person who can do that is the one that will get a head start. If the bank now says, we're going to start doing e-cards, we're going to start doing online banking, do you understand? You would kind of gravitate towards the person who has a little bit more, or has shown some signs of trying to understand, or has come up in 3 meetings ago, when are we going to launch an app? Why can't people think of one of the first banking innovations, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Diamond Bank, where you could deposit money in Lagos, and then you could come to Onitsha and withdraw the money from Onitsha and pay for it. You didn't have to carry the money. And I think that was even the slogan for some of the advertisements. So things like that, you can imagine the person that thought of that maybe 20, 30 years ago, who had sort of remained in the banking industry, the kind of ideas that would be in his head, because you can see how transformative that was. So, in essence, if you are someone who has a job that you feel a little bit threatened by AI, I think there's a higher level. You're right. AI can do some things. And not just AI, it's automation, it's computers, it's apps. But there's some things that it can't do. Even with the Uber, Uber is seen as the driver, and I know we are trying to build driverless cars, or we do have driverless cars, but there's still always, to teach a driverless car how to drive without a driver, you need a driver.
Of course.
Or you need hours of driving footage, and navigation and signs and stuff like that. So I think ultimately, and let's just come back to the bank example, because that's very easy. Banking there's more banking done now than when it was just counting money. Even at the Nigeria level, there's more things like credit, risk, investment, lending, just because counting money is not enough to be a banker, right? And maybe just getting government contract and it's not enough. So there's a lot more that's gone into banking because of the evolution of the industry. And like I said, even in that space, you don't need to be someone who writes the software for the banking software to be in charge of maybe cards or issuance or stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You just kind of like need to keep abreast with what's going on and try and come up with better or simpler ways to get things done. So I think ultimately it's still staying up to date and then just kind of understanding where your industry is going so that you can adapt. There's adaptability, and I think you mentioned it here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So for the person who asked that question, you've been told what to do. Just find a way to adapt and stay relevant.
Yeah.
Second question here is, how do you scale from the ideology stage to the launch phase as a startup?
Experimentation. So there's two things. They say don't start a startup because you just want to start a startup. You should start a startup because you want to solve a problem. And I was even watching a video yesterday where they were explaining that sometimes your eventual solution or your eventual product or business is not exactly what you thought it was going to be initially. I think in the startup world, they call that pivoting or pivot, depending on what you say. And it's still some kind of institutional adaptation. So when you have an idea or an ideology, one of the best things you can do is do a little bit of research. And now research is a lot more easier. You can use ChatGPT, you can ask around, you can read information, you can search online. You need to find the right balance between doing a lot of research and waiting, and then just jumping in without doing any research. I'll give you an example. A lot of people come to me and say, I have this idea, I want to be the first XYZ. I want you to tell me that. I know you haven't done your research. Because if you've done your research, I can assure you there's nothing new under the sun, in code. If you really are creating something that's going to be the first of its kind in the whole world, you're in the 1%, right? And if you talk to me and I sense that you're inside that 1%, I will collect your WhatsApp number and be your friend. Because that means you're really in the exceptional tier. But if you're telling me that your thing is going to be the best, it's going to be the fastest, going to be the cheapest, that is a selling point. So when you have an idea, the first thing you have to do is to try and execute it. Try and pilot it. They say ideas are a dime a dozen. So test it out. Come up with something. Sometimes sketch design, something's okay. If I gave you this kind of thing, what will you do? Will you press this or will you press that? If you're someone that has some skills in building, maybe you're a designer, you can do a small website and say, okay, this is how it works. If it's a physical business, some people, it's prototype, MVP, it's the same words every day. But don't keep your idea for so long in your head that you've not put it out there. It has to be, and then there's always that fear of, oh, what if I put it out there and someone steals my idea, or if I discuss it with someone and someone takes it. See, even to do pure water business is not easy. True or false? True. They say it's pure water. Go and do it now. Go and collect NAFDAC registration. Go and get the machinery. Go and get. So even if an idea is so simple or it's so novel, execution is everything. To actually get it done, raise a team, keep people motivated, get to market, distribute it. So if you have an idea, the way you move from idea to actual reality is you pilot, you test, you prototype, you build, you share it, you look for, business seminars, incubators, accelerators, hubs. You go to places where people who do that thing or who do similar businesses have sort of walked through, and you get the kind of advice and support that you need. But keeping your idea in your head, not very helpful. And eventually, like I said, you're probably going to iterate, you're going to pivot on that idea. You might start with something like this and change to something else. So the best way to create that eventual product or eventual business is to start something. So they say start even if you're not ready.
Okay, thank you. Please put your hands together. Start even if you are not ready. Somebody asked a question here that I think he has answered in the course of speaking to the question before this one, and that's about the future of jobs in this era of AI. So I think that has been handled, permit me. There's another question here. What are the tech skills needed in this era where we are dealing with artificial intelligence and all?
I don't think it's even a tech skill you need. I think you need probably two skills. One is curiosity. You need to be asking questions, And unfortunately, culturally, we don't encourage questions. Shut up, what do you know? Don't talk when your elders are talking, that kind of thing. We ingrained in our lifestyle as standard Nigerians, we don't ask too many questions, If you even sabi book, I too know.
Yeah, ITK.
How is that a problem? The most successful men in the world are I too know. They too know. That's why they are where they are. Elon Musk is I too know. That's why the guy was inside and said cars not supposed to get engines, supposed to be electric. And then he went and bought an electric car company, and now he's doing Tesla and so many things. The guy wants to go to space. You have to be I too know to have those kind of aspirations. So I think there are a few things that culturally that we are killing. There's one, and this one is the most controversial one. I'm very sure I will see my parents in my sleep. Copying. And I'm not saying giraffe during exam. But to innovate, you need to copy. But you need to copy with the intent of making it better. I don't know, some of you had the experience where you were writing exam or tests or assignment and somebody copied from you and got a higher score.
Got a higher score, yeah.
And how now? But Zuckerberg, they copy you, Mark Zucker. They copy bastard heavily. Copy. Sorry, I'm in church. You have to copy innovatively. Yeah? Copy and make it better. Look at an idea. Even yesterday when I was looking at when I was watching one of those videos, just refresh my mind, prepare for this. Someone talked about proxy ideas. Something that is working somewhere else, you just bring it and put it here. You don't have it here. So they could have a food delivery service abroad, call it DoorDash and whatever. You come here in Nigeria, it does not exist. And you see that maybe the fundamentals are the same. There's some problem, infrastructure, blah, blah, blah. And then you start Chowdeck or Glovo or one of these businesses, and you're up and running. Fast food was not a natural thing here. We had other ways we were eating and other things. And then when the whole fast food business, McDonald's, Burger King, then we've got Mr. Biggs, then all of a sudden now everywhere is a fast food joint. But like it's a new process, a new way of doing, not really new, but like it's a different way of how we vend food. And the older methods still exist. I mean, you can still go to D-Line, you can still go to town, and still go to roads. Anyway, you still find, but there's also another new pattern. So sometimes just a proxy is a way to kind of like, get something done. And I hope I've not strayed away from the question.
No, you have not.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. So there's a question here, and this person is saying thank you for an inspiring session.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Thank you.
The question, I think, is a quick win, basically. Is how do people retain authenticity and creative ability in this era where AI basically has the answer to everything?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. There's some things, I'll quote exactly what I said yesterday at the founders meetup and what I think mentioned. Money Point could not have been created in Silicon Valley. It's not possible. They don't have that problem. They don't walk into a store, pay, and they can't leave, right? So the authenticity of you solving a problem or you bringing a different angle to something. Every one of us is unique. I talked a little bit about my background. I had sort of like an academic background and read book, and I can read overnight. I can continue reading and reading and reading, especially when I was slightly younger. And that came from like all I was surrounded by was books. I had zero idea of business. I don't know how to sell. If you give me anything to sell, come back later. It's still there. And maybe you collect it from me and give the person that sold more, like the master did in the Bible. I don't know how to sell. Some people, there are people that are doing e-commerce or delivery business, selling, hair, wigs. They have their small shops. Some of them, their parent was, like in Yoruba, like Iyaloja, she was the chief of the market. All the rappers and You grew up in that kind of family. Maybe your mom was a caterer, used to supply food. You had all the whole. Now today you're an event manager. That is your unique brand, your unique experience. Me, that's all they were doing in my house was reading book. I probably can't relate, and I probably can't create that kind of business that you have created. And that makes you unique. So I can't be you, you can't be me. So if you look at somebody else and you aspire to be that person, you may be making a mistake because you're losing that authenticity. So when you get into AI and when you start prompting or thinking of what AI can do, it doesn't have that uniqueness by default. And you already have that uniqueness. You have a specific experience. I gave an idea yesterday when we were talking. I was like, what if you had, and I think there was somebody in the audience who related to it. Somebody goes on to go and start a business or a platform that matches local talent, football talent, with agents in Europe. And that was because his younger brother was such a good footballer, but could not get any trials outside. And then eventually, after about 4 or 5 years, because the brother says he's not going to go to university, he wants to go and play football in Europe. He now got connected to an agent and then traveled abroad. So when he traveled abroad, he got there and they really loved the game he was playing. And the people there were like, we've been looking for how to get more JJ Okochas and more Kanu Wankos. Mm-hmm. And then his elder brother, who was somehow into tech, now started this matching agents with local talent. So now that person who is starting that business, there's something unique there. His brother had the problem. They've struggled to get a solution. Now they have connections to agents and local talent that nobody else has. So even if I now step into that business now and say I want to start connecting talented footballers with agents in Europe, maybe I might go to my village and find talented footballers. Maybe I might even walk around Port Harcourt or Lagos.
Find them.
But do I have the connections? And do I have somebody that was close to me that can understand how the business of football agency and management works? No. I have academic background, I sabi book in quote, whatever kind of thing, but how will I turn that into creating the next Kanu Wanko or creating the next Okocha or creating the next Victor Osimhen? I just can't. So eventually you have to find what uniqueness. Just take one step back. When we mentor businesses or people who come with startups, we ask two questions. It's one question, but it's three questions in one. We ask, why you? And why you, the three questions there is why. First question is why. Why do you want to do this? Usually the why is because there's a problem, there's a gap, nobody's doing it properly, I can do it better than this person. Okay, then the thing is, you? Yes, I'm a former footballer. I know what we pass through. I'm a doctor. I know what people pass through when they come to the hospital, health records, a patient walks into my place, you ask him, they have to do all the same tests that they did in the other place. So now I'm doing digitizing health records because I, as a doctor or as a clinician or I know it's a problem. I may not know how deep of a problem it is. I may not know how stressful it is. So why you? Then when you now put the two together, you're like, so that's the why, and this is the you. Okay, so why should it be you? Why shouldn't it be another doctor who's somebody else, who has money or who has connection? Why exactly should it be you? So if you look for that uniqueness in you, what's that thing I have that you don't have? What's that thing you have that I don't have? Right? If I want to start being envious of you or you want to start being envious of me, it won't take you very far. But yeah, this guy is running up and down. He has come to Port Harcourt. He has seen opportunity. He's even giving us one or two problems. Should be in the go. Making the go. Once in the go, I don't start the business. For this Port or this start, now me, I could do that business. So there's a unique thing. It could be your position, your location, your access. There's something about you that makes you primed to take that advantage. So I think that's one thing people do. So yes, AI has this, and it's a helper. It's a tool. It's like me now. If you carry spanner 10, 11 and plier and give me and say you can work on educate's car, it's useless to me. I don't have the skills to use those spanners. I cannot fix a toilet that is broken. You can show me where they sell new plumbing ware, pipes. You can give me all the tools. But if I don't have the know-how, there's nothing I can do with it. So eventually, whether the AI tool exists, whether it's capable of doing A, B, C, X, Y, Z, it's the person that would eventually learn to use it, know how to use it, and even go ahead and use it. Some people have knowledge that they're not using. That's the person that's going to make a difference. So how do you stand out as someone who has a skill or a background or an inclination? Use the tool. Get better at it. Ask questions. Do a little bit of reading, research. Reach out to people who can. Ask the tool itself. As a this. How would you approach doing X, Y, Z? And you'll be shocked the kind of results you get. We can even do it practically right now.
Okay, thank you. Please put your hands together. I'm going to take two questions in one as a final question.
Sure.
So we can shut this down.
Yeah.
The other questions that are here, we'll probably just push to you and get back. I'm also skipping, just to announce, I'm also skipping questions that I think have already been answered so we don't go back and forth. So two questions in one. First one, in your experience with developer ecosystems, what policies or initiatives have proven most effective in nurturing a culture of innovation and job creation? And then second one is, with the rise of gig economies and freelance platforms, what advice do you have for building resilient careers that adapt to rapid technological changes?
I'll start from the second question because that's a more difficult question. The gig economy is all this, doing jobs online, working, getting paid, remote, you're not necessarily having a full job or contract, employment letter. It's almost be like a freelancer. If you get into the gig economy, you find out it's so large that when you cut your share, you can just leave it, right? if you go in, let's say you're even an architect, right? Sometimes you just need one client. And once somebody knows you're capable of doing this, I would say once you get a job, try and do it very well so that your reputation takes you very far. Because it's like maybe an Uber driver or a Bolt driver. Every now and then I need a Bolt. I just open the app and I do a Bolt, right? But if I need a driver to take me from here to Uyo, I'm not going on Bolt to look for it. I'm looking for the most capable. And it could have been somebody that I encountered on Uber. It could have been the cleanest Uber driver I've seen. There's so many times I've gone to a town and then I take an Uber from somewhere and then I'm like, Organa, you go come carry me, go airport tomorrow. You guys just call me and take my number. And then you have the person's number, either because the car was clean or something like that. So that's just someone expressing some form of excellence in the first or only opportunity they get to interact with you. So if you're a gig worker, if you're getting on board, maybe someone asks you to design a website or design their this and that, do the job so well that when the person wants to find someone to do a similar job, they'll come straight to you and not to the gig platform. And secondly, then they refer you and they say, oh, somebody else. If you're looking for it, no worry, don't just go there. I get person who could do it for you. Do you understand? I would say practically how I'm here. I went to speak at an event in Startup South, and then 2 people were in the audience and said, we think you'd be a great fit for XYZ, right? So this could have been is this a paid gig? Okay, I'm not sure. This could have been a paid gig. I could have been in a strategy session at Renaissance Energy. I could have been and someone could have even flown me out anywhere, So if you get an opportunity to show yourself, you first of all have to put yourself out there and then keep improving and honing your skills, doing the best you can so that one opportunity you get can take you very far. The first one, the other one are developer ecosystems. I think the policy that I really feel makes a big difference is when people who are not in the developer ecosystem get involved in the system. So that could be anything like a church, like a government, like a school. When you see young people maybe convening in a place to say they want to learn technology, it's not often that you need a technology person to really help them. Like if a government steps in and gives everybody free laptop or gives you a location where you can, where there's free power or internet, I think those infrastructure, those basic problems, because I think there used to be 3 of them. I forgot what they were. Yeah. Access, content, right? And infrastructure. Those 3 things, any small community of 2 or 3 people, a big university, a club, a group of people who are beginning to, play around with these things. It could be your son and his friends that have been running around saying, give me a laptop, or using your phone to do something tangible. If somebody else outside that community recognizes the potential and just adds a little to support whoever is trying to do something, someone trying to learn. I have people that I give 5,000 naira data for 6 months, and they come back and they thank you. Not because it changes their life, but it gives you the basic. They end up consuming more than 5,000 naira data a month, right? But at least that first 5K every month, the guy knows he can sign up for this. And to be very honest, when I was in the US, it's $3. So you can imagine using $3 times 5 to change 5 people's lives every month. It's a big thing. So just these little additions into whatever ecosystem or community or gathering or aspiration of people, or somebody trying to learn something, give someone your old phone, your old laptop. And at the highest level, if we could get government to sponsor, training or supply laptops or give free internet, I think those external inputs that come from outside that community go a very long way in helping everyone in that community. And then usually the community itself, when it starts thriving, it supports the people around. People pay it forward. I'm doing this because I was once in the audience. And I know I can remember 3 or 4 instances where my attendance of an event is directly responsible for why I'm here. And when I got on stage, I know people that till tomorrow, they look up to me and tell me, Oga, because of this, now you make me, that kind of thing. And some of them give me cash. So paying it forward, it generally comes back from and through the community. So I think those external inputs motivate community members, and the ripple effect is unbelievable.
Please put your hands together. Thank you. And Eddie, thanks. Somebody said that you at some point sounded like you were touting that school is truly a scam. Is that what you were saying?
No.
That's what they told us.
Time is up, right?
Yes, it is. Time is up, but you can't escape this one.
I can't escape this one. Education is not a scam. That's the answer to that question. So I think, please, I'll say this with the kind of strong opinions I'm kind of known for. There's a face in this audience, I think. Have you been at any of my events before? Port Harcourt, GDG Port Harcourt, Dev Fest or anything? Gentleman in white. Your face looks quite familiar. Yes. Oh, quite familiar. Okay. Try and understand the difference between education and school. And if you're going to school, make sure you're getting educated. So they say if you go to school, pass through school and school passes through you. Education is a holistic thing. Observation, interpretation, recording, even social. And I tell people, I said, the so-called derailed, I said I derailed in Port Harcourt from being a 100% nerd to being sort of kind of street smart. Mm-hmm. I appreciate it because I see where it has helped me in sections of my career. There are times where my knowledge, my book has completely failed me, where I've had to be resilient, I've had to just be bold, I've had to look inwards and say, I don't suffer this one before I go fit overcome this one. So I think that holistic knowledge. So when you say school, if school is cramming this thing and passing exam, or that school is scam, right? And if you think, give me 2 minutes. If you think being a student is a limitation to entrepreneurship, or you are of the mindset that after school, when I graduate, I will start doing this, you're on a long thing, right? Our friend, Mr. Peter Obi, said he built which bank when he was a student. See, we heard that one before. Like, the other thing about being a student is that that's one of the best communities where you find your co-founder, like find the people you can work with. And sometimes it's not about knowing the most brilliant person or being first and second in class. If you're first and second in class and two of you found a company, you still need the person that can sell, the person that can socialize, the person that can organize. So when you're building your team and you remember, say, this guy, go fit package the thing well. You guys might be the brains behind it, but you need someone that can sell. If you look at Microsoft, Bill Gates was trying to figure out the class timetable of which girl was going to which class so he could sign up for that class. Mark Zuckerberg was trying to connect all the people in Harvard dormitory, I think, and the Google founders, even though they were PhD, right, they were trying to organize all the information in Stanford. So if you go to school and think you are only a student to read only book, then when you come out, you want to start life. If that worked in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, it can't work today. You have to be an influencer, a content creator, a writer, a sportsman, someone drama, press club. You have to be something else than someone who goes to class. And being a student is not a barrier to being a successful entrepreneur. So I think that would be my definition of education versus school.
Okay. I think that the point has been made, and it is get educated. Whether it is that you pass through a school, please let the school pass through you. And if somehow you were not able to go through the four walls, quote unquote, at least learn. Yeah. Because it is what you know that you can then turn into what will sustain you, right? Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for L.E.A.D. Udobong. Thank you. And then, please keep clapping. Let's bring up Pastor NK so that she helps us tie up these events today. Keep clapping, ladies and gentlemen.
Hallelujah. Thank you so much. You may have your seat. It has been very, very interesting session. I believe we have learned so much, and so much to take home with us to think and come up, be more innovative better ways of doing things, seeing more into what we're doing, and most especially for those of us who are students, you don't wait till you graduate to start. When we were in school, that was what we were told. Understand it, get a good grade. When you come out, you get a good job. It worked then, but it may not work now. In fact, it will not work now. So get your mind working, thinking, processing. Ideas will come in. And if you hold on to anyone, it will take you to where you want to be. Amen. We just want to use this time to say thank you so very much. So wonderful, so helpful. Thank you. We so appreciate you. And we are looking forward to having you again tomorrow, right here in this place, 8 o'clock until 8:50 a.m. here, right in this auditorium. If you are a part of the Inner Code Church, we expect you to be here. But if you are not, please make some adjustment to be part of what is happening here tomorrow. You have already started it with us, so it will be so very well nice for you to be part of it tomorrow to see the end of it. Remember, the end of a thing is better off than the beginning. So come for the icing on the cake. Hallelujah. So this is where we draw the curtain for today. There's service here tomorrow starting at 8 a.m., like I said earlier, and running this session with our honorable guest speaker for the first 15 minutes, and thereafter we go into our impact service from 9 a.m. until 11 a.m. God bless you. Shall we please rise as we close? Heavenly Father, we give thanks and we bless your holy name. You are a good God, the one who always puts us together. You package us to give us wisdom, to give us understanding, that we elevate us to be where you want us to be. God, every one of us here, Lord, we are looking to be the best version of ourselves. Lord, we submit our hearts to you. May grace rest upon each one of us. May your wisdom, oh God, rest upon us. We are having this session in your presence because we know there is something about your presence. God, let that touch of your presence rest upon every one of us today. That every knowledge, every information we have received today, we bring that needed transformation in our lives in the name of Jesus. Amen. Father, we pray for your son, Lord, that you have used and you do. Lord, we ask that you please grace him even much more. That whenever, anytime, wherever he finds himself to speak, the impact will be greater than what we have received today. And so shall it be, Father. We commit our ways into your hands as we go. We ask, Lord, that you take us back to our various destinations safely. There shall not be any evil report. We give you praise, our Father. It is in Jesus' mighty name we have prayed. Amen. Let's take the closing church. My eyes to the heavens, from where my help comes. My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not allow my foot to be moved. He who keeps me will not slumber. Behold, he who keeps us shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is my keeper. The Lord is my shade at my right hand. The sun shall not strike me by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve me from all evil. He shall preserve my soul. The Lord shall preserve my going out and my coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Amen. Go in peace. God bless you.